World Cup 2026 qualifying resumed in the June international window for Asia, South America, Europe, and North America, and some absolutely insane results have happened in this window. There are a couple of nations in Asia that are confirmed to be making their debuts at the 2026 World Cup, while on the flip side, giants like Saudi Arabia, the back-to-back Asian Cup champions Qatar, and Iraq have failed to secure an automatic ticket to the World Cup in the United States, but also at the same time, underdog nations like Indonesia, for example, who made bold moves in these qualifiers like replacing their manager that was doing so well, are still in contention of qualifying to the World Cup through the next round. It's getting pretty crazy, I know. At the same time in South America, Chile has already been eliminated from qualifying, Colombia is continuing to slip up in their games, while Paraguay are in a very good spot to qualify for their first World Cup since 2010. Then in Europe, Italy are already at risk of failing to qualify for their third World Cup in a row, and Belgium are somewhat at a risk too. And now in the North America region, the qualifying has finally resumed after a year-long hiatus, and a lot of countries in this region have been eliminated from World Cup contention. So as you can see, there have been some crazy results and upsets. And with that, let's take a look at everything that happened in the June international window regarding the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Let's start off with the AAC World Cup qualifiers first. And just a reminder on how this qualifying section works, for every group in the third round of Asia's World Cup qualifying, the first two places in the group get an automatic ticket to the World Cup, while third and fourth place go to the next round of qualifying, and fifth and sixth place will be eliminated. Had to make sure y'all remember that. Anyway, starting off with Group A at the Asian World Cup qualifiers, we got Qatar, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Uzbekistan, North Korea, and Kyrgyzstan playing for a ticket at the 2026 World Cup. And after the March international window, the table looked like this. Iran were already qualified and in first place with 20 points. Uzbekistan were behind them in second place with 17 points. Then the UAE were in third with 13 points. Qatar were in fourth with 10 points. It's been a rough campaign for the Qataris. Kyrgyzstan were creeping up in fifth place with 6 points. And sadly, the team that I was slowly becoming a fan of in this group, North Korea, finished in dead last with 2 points and were already eliminated from qualifying. And now with that out of the way, let's move on to the first game of match day 9, where we have the United Arab Emirates taking on Uzbekistan at home in Abu Dhabi. And listen, there isn't a need to talk about this game too much, since it ended 0-0, even though the UAE were dominating all the offensive stats. But the reason why this match was important was the Uzbeks just needed one more point to qualify directly to the World Cup. And with a 0-0 draw thanks to their keeper Yusupov pulling out some great saves against the UAE in the second half, they got it. And congratulations to Uzbekistan, who have now qualified for their first ever World Cup after choking in previous World Cup qualifying campaigns. I wanted to see Uzbekistan make their debut in North America just because this national team simply deserves it. They've been one of the best national teams on the rise on the Asian continent. So well done to Uzbekistan and to all the fans who support them. Can't wait to see y'all here. Now moving on to the next match, we got Qatar taking on Iran in Doha. But before we talk about the match, we do have to note something important that happened between March and June. And that's Qatar's old coach, Luis Garcia, was sacked despite only becoming the Qatari coach in December. And the Qatari FA went all out and splashed a ton of money to acquire Jordan Lopetegui, the ex-Spain, ex-Real Madrid, ex-West Ham and Wolves coach, to now coach the Qatar national team. What a huge appointment for Qatar's federation. And initially, it seemed like it was the right one. That's because in the match against Iran, who played a majority of this game with 10 men, Qatar would actually win 1-0 thanks to a pretty scrappy goal from Pedro Miguel, who got a header on his own rebound to deliver Qatar to 3 points, also giving Iran their first and only defeat of Asia's third round of World Cup qualifying, which means that Julian Lopetegui in his first game accomplished a seemingly impossible task, defeating Iran, something Uzbekistan couldn't even do. Now yes, was Iran's team the best in these past couple of games? No, because they didn't call up Sardar Azmoun, Gayedi, etc. But still, a win is impressive nevertheless. But before we dive into Qatar's second game of the window, we should go over North Korea versus Kyrgyzstan first. Now North Korea might already be eliminated, but if Kyrgyzstan won this game away from home, the game was actually played in Saudi Arabia, not in Pyongyang, so calling it a home game for North Korea is kind of funny. But anyways, if Kyrgyzstan did win this game, they would keep their World Cup qualifying hopes alive. But it didn't start off the best for Kyrgyzstan, with Park Wang-hun scoring off a corner kick in the 44th minute to put North Korea up right before halftime. And then in the 52nd minute, Ri Jo-guk dribbles past a Kyrgyzstan defender and slams the ball into the back of the net to put North Korea up 2-0. From here on, it seemed like North Korea would guide themselves to a victory, but the Kyrgyz fought back well. First thanks to Ali Kulov in the 57th minute, who scored after some terrible North Korean defending, and then in the 90+5th minute, an unlucky own goal by Kim Song-hae cost North Korea in what would have been their first and only victory of the third round, as the game ended in a 2-2 draw. But this match was also not good for Kyrgyzstan, because this draw also effectively knocked them out of World Cup 2026 contention as well. This is pretty unlucky for both teams. I was really impressed by Kyrgyzstan towards the later stages of the third round of qualifying, because they started to perform way better, especially at home in Bishkek. And man, North Korea just got so unlucky. There were so many games where they deserved to win, but they just couldn't get it over the line. If they got to play their home games in Pyongyang, this definitely would have been a different story. Trust me, the North Korean home advantage would have gone crazy. But enough about that. Let's move on to match day 10, where we're going to start off with Uzbekistan versus Qatar. Now it is important to note that Qatar rested a lot of their players due to not wanting one of their main players to get a yellow card and miss a game in the fourth round qualifying due to accumulation. While Uzbekistan wanted to show off to their people after qualifying for their first ever World Cup, so they went all out. And the stats in the scoreboard reflected that. They absolutely dominated the game, having 18 shots to Qatar's 1, 8 shots on target to Qatar's 0, and 61% possession. Wow, Qatar got destroyed. More specifically in the match 2, Turgan Boev will get by 2 Qatari defenders defenders, making one in the process in the 28th minute, and then scoring an absolute screamer with his left foot to put the Uzbeks up ahead 1-0. Then after getting a multitude of great opportunities throughout the rest of the match, they would finally double their lead in the 86th minute thanks to Shomurodov, who brought down the ball brilliantly from a perfect touch and finished the ball off amazingly to make it 2-0. And then finally in the 90+2nd minute, Sergeyev would score a header off a corner kick to make it 3-0, and the Uzbeks successfully ran the Qataris out of town. What a performance from Uzbekistan after qualifying to the World Cup, and what a dreadful performance by Qatar, man. And that's why I'm so confused. Was Lopetegui the right appointment, or was the game versus Iran just a lucky one? I guess we'll find out in the 4th round of AFC qualifying, huh? Let's now move on to the next match, where we had Kyrgyzstan taking on the United Arab Emirates at home in Bishkek. And this game was just a dead rubber one, just because both teams already knew their fate. Kyrgyzstan was not making the World Cup, while the UAE were going to the next round. But still, just to glance over it, the UAE's best player in my eyes, Harib Abdallah, was through on a 1-on-1 in the 30th minute and shot the ball right on top of the goalkeeper to go in and make it 1-0 to the UAE. Getting a lead in Bishkek is hard, so well done to the UAE, I guess. And shout out to Harib Abdallah. I have no idea why he was benched against Uzbekistan, but this guy is a baller. Now the UAE wouldn't be able to hold on for the 3 points, with Kyrgyzstan's Kai Merk scoring a 90+4th late leveler with his half volley to make sure the Kyrs get a point from this game. But all in all, this game didn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. But now from one dead rubber game to another in Group A's 3rd round of qualifying, let's talk about Iran playing North Korea in Tehran. Now as you already know, Iran had already qualified for the World Cup, where North Korea were already eliminated, so there isn't a huge need to go into this match in great detail. But I do want to highlight something specific about this game, and I'm not just talking about that Mogan Lu miss, because wow, that was worse than anything Darwin Nunez has done. But I'm talking about the fact that only after North Korea got a red card, with Kai Tom receiving one after a dangerous tackle in the 68th minute, it's when Iran were able to put the ball into the back of the net. That's when Mohebi scored in the 74th minute, Taremi scored in the 77th minute, and Hossein Zadeh scored in the 90+3rd minute to make it 3-0 for Iran. But seeing Iran struggle to score against a North Korea team before they went down to 10 men at home is slightly concerning. Let's hope they fix what's going on before the 2026 World Cup, huh? But anyways, after all of this, Group A in the 3rd round of Asian World Cup qualifying has finally wrapped up. So now let's take a look at the final standings. In first place in this group, we have Iran, who qualified to the World Cup with 23 points. Then in second, we have Uzbekistan, who got 21 points and are going to make their World Cup debuts next summer. Then in third, we have the UAE with 15 points. They'll be going to the 4th round alongside back-to-back Asian Cup champions Qatar, who finished in 4th with 13 points. Then unluckily for Kyrgyzstan, they got eliminated with 8 points, and the North Koreans finished in dead last with only 3 points. Unfortunate for them. But with that out of the way, it's now finally time to move on to Asian World Cup qualifying Group B, where we've got the likes of South Korea, Iraq, Oman, Jordan, Palestine, and Kuwait. And after the March international window, the table looked like this. In first place, we had the Asian giants South Korea with 16 points and yet to receive a defeat. Jordan were in second with 13 points. They were looking to try and make their World Cup debuts in 2026. Iraq were right after them in third place with 12 points. Oman were in fourth with 10 points. Palestine still had a decent chance of qualifying, even though they were in fifth place with 6 points. And Kuwait were in last in this group with 5 points. And now let's move on to the first game of match day 9 in AFC World Cup qualifying Group B, where we had Oman versus Jordan. Now both teams in this match were desperate to try and get the 3 points. If Jordan won, they had a chance of making it to the World Cup directly, depending on what happens in the Iraq game. While if Oman won, they would pretty much stamp their place in the 4th round of qualifying. So both teams were ready to do whatever it takes to get a win here. And some could say that Oman were the favorites just because they were playing at home in Muscat. And although Oman had more of the shots and more of the possession, they honestly didn't do much in this game, as we can see with only 2 shots on target to Jordan's 4. While Jordan, they had pinpoint accuracy in this game when it came to the shots, because they converted 75% of them. Starting off at added time in the first half, one of Jordan's attackers got fouled in the box and was awarded a penalty, in which Olwan converted calmly to give Jordan a lead right before halftime. From then on in the second half, it was kind of a bloodbath, with Al Naima delivering a great cross to Olwan again in the 51st minute, who scored a double the lead for the Jordanians, and then the 64th minute, Olwan gets a wide open net to score into, which he does, unlike that dude from Iran, and he secured a hat-trick as Jordan won against Oman away from home 3-0. This was an incredible and huge result for Jordan that had implications related to their aspirations of making the 2026 World Cup. But before I spoil that, we would have to cover the Iraq versus South Korea game first in Basra. Now if Iraq wanted to stay alive for a direct qualification spot, they needed to get at least a point at home against the South Koreans, who were definitely the best team in this group. And with Iraq playing at home in Basra, this seemed doable. And with them hiring new and experienced coach Graham Arnold, maybe this injection of new blood in the side can help them get over the line. However, the first game under Arnold did not go to plan for the Iraqis, with them getting beat comfortably on the stat sheet, with South Korea having 13 shots to Iraq's 5, 7 shots on target to Iraq's 2, and having an overwhelming majority of the possession with 76%. And this domination was reflected on the scoreboard too. A large part of that has to do with the red card given to Ali Al-Hamidi in the 26th minute due to his high boot challenge on the South Korean player. And because of that, the Iraqi national team went down in 10 men. And after this, it was basically all South Korea. Iraq would prevent them from scoring in the first half, but South Korea would get their goals in the second half. First thanks to Kim Jin-gyu in the 63rd minute, who finished it calmly past the goalkeeper to put his nation up 1-0, and then the usual bench warmer striker, Oh Hyung-gyu, would finish the ball in from across in the 82nd minute to grab all 3 points for the South Koreans in a 2-0 win. And guess what? With this loss for Iraq means not only did South Korea qualify directly to the World Cup, but also Jordan would qualify directly to their first ever World Cup as well, which means they'll be making their debuts next summer. And sadly for Iraq, they'll have to go through the 4th round of qualifying if they want to be in the United States next summer. summer. But now I think it's time we talk about Kuwait versus Palestine. And don't be fooled just because these two sides are at the bottom of the table. Basically, whoever wins this game is still alive for that 4th place position on the table. And with Kuwait playing at home, it seemed like they would be the favorites in this match. But just like in the other games in match day 9, the away side would be victorious. And Palestine will pull off a madness in Kuwait City. First in the 32nd minute, where Sion would somehow finish the ball brilliantly from a cross that went behind them to put Palestine up 1-0. And then over to the second half in the 88th minute, a Palestinian forward would be fouled in the box. And Wissam Abu Ali would convert it straight down the middle to collect all 3 points for Palestine in this 2-0 win, thus eliminating Kuwait in the process. Unlucky Kuwait, but my downfall praying has worked. I won't forget the way these guys beat my India to the 3rd round of qualifying. Even though India is booty cheeks, I still have an agenda to uphold. But enough about my terrible national team. It's time we take a look to match day 10, where first we'll start off with South Korea versus Kuwait. And I mean, this game was a bloodbath. Kuwait were disheartened by the fact that they were eliminated, and South Korea had already made the World Cup. So this game was dead rubber, and South Korea won in triumphant fashion, with Al Hajeri scoring an own goal in the 30th minute, Lee Kang-in, who just won the Champions League with PSG, scoring in the 51st minute, Oh Hyung-gyu gets a second goal in 2 games in the 54th minute, and Lee Jae-sung scoring in the 72nd minute to make sure South Korea destroyed Kuwait in Seoul 4-0. A tough loss for Kuwait. That's tough. Moving on to the next match day 10 clash, we got Jordan versus Iraq in Amman. Now this game was set up to be a fight for a direct World Cup spot, but without already being decided in the previous game, this match was also a dead rubber one, meaning there was nothing for each team to fight for. And with Jordan basically partying for 3 days in a row, they didn't look the best in this game. And I'll give them a pass. They just made their first ever World Cup. Come on. So Iraq had the perfect chance to win away from home. And they did just that thanks to a set piece goal from Sajjad in the 73rd minute to secure a 1-0 win for Iraq. Maybe this win will help build confidence for Graham Arnold's med ahead of the 4th round of qualifying. But now for the last game of Group B, the match that broke my heart. Let's go over Palestine versus Oman held in Amman, Jordan, because they needed a neutral ground for Palestine's home stadium, obviously. And man, this game broke my heart, bruh. I cry every time I think about this match. This wasn't in the script, man. The football writers were not cooking with this one. Still hurts to talk about this match too. Okay, so look, if Palestine wanted to make it to the next round of qualifying, they needed to beat Oman, while all Oman needed was a point. And listen, this game was not the most entertaining, I can't lie. Look at the stats. There were a total of 23 shots in the game, but only 3 happened to be on target. So as you can imagine, it wasn't that good of a game to watch. But you see in the 49th minute, the Palestinian midfielder Karoub does something special, and he scores off a corner kick at the near post to give Palestine the 1-0 lead they desperately wanted. This goal could have been the one that made history and took them to the 4th round of qualifying. And with Palestine staying strong and bunkering, still preventing Oman to score, it seemed like Palestine could make history. But in added time, in the 90+7th minute, the Somali attacker straight up just dove or tripped on himself, and the referee called a penalty. What a bullshit call, man. Seriously, that was not a penalty. That might have been one of the worst penalty calls I've ever seen in my life, I swear. And of course, Oman's Al-Sabi would convert the penalty to equalize the game, and the match would end 1-1, which meant that Oman was going to the 4th round, while Palestine only barely missed out. Heartbreaking stuff, man. Seriously. I really wanted Palestine to go crazy and make their people proud during these difficult times, but due to referee cheese, it wasn't meant to be. Oman, I'm sorry y'all. I was rocking with you guys, but after this, I think I'm gonna have to start being a hater. No troll. Definitely want to visit the country in the future though. It does look dope. But now with all this Group B stuff out of the way, let's take a look at how the final Group B table looks like. In first place, we have South Korea, who finished with 22 points and still remain undefeated. Well done to them. Then in second, we have Jordan, who are qualifying to the World Cup for the first time ever. Congratulations. And third, we have Iraq, who barely missed out with 15 points. Oman is in fourth with 11 points, also making it to the 4th round alongside Iraq. Palestine only barely missed out in the next round in 5th place with 10 points, but they'll be back for 2030, I'm sure. And Kuwait finishes in dead last with 5 points. That's what you get for knocking out India. Take that. But now with that out of the way, let's now finally go over to my personal favorite group in the 3rd round of Asian World Cup qualifying. We got Group C, where we got the likes of Japan, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, China, and Indonesia. And after the March international window, the table looked like this. Japan were in first place and already qualified to the World Cup before this June window with 20 points. Australia were close to qualifying directly, with that being in second with 13 points. Saudi Arabia were behind them with a chance with 10 points. Indonesia, surprisingly to some, were hoping to secure a 4th round spot with 9 points. Bahrain were still alive in 5th place with 6 points. And China were also still alive, being in last place due to goal difference with also 6 points. So now let's jump in right away and talk about the Australia versus Japan match first held in Perth. Now this game was not set to be one of the more entertaining encounters between these two sides, just because for Australia, they were facing some setbacks with a lot of players pulling out of this window due to injury, while for Japan, they had already qualified before June even started, which meant that they were using a B/C team for these qualifiers. I mean, just look at this lineup, man. 90% of these guys are not making it to the World Cup 2026 roster. So for me, this game was for Australia's to lose, because they needed the 3 points, while Japan were just chilling. And even though Japan had more of the possession and more overall shots, it didn't matter because they only managed to put 1 on target, while Australia put half of their shots on target. And lucky for the Australians, one of them went in. In the 90th minute, Riley McGree crosses the ball into a dangerous area, where Aziz Behik scores an incredible late winning goal to not only make sure Australia beat Japan 1-0, but also to make sure that Australia were going to qualify directly to the World Cup. Congratulations to the Socceroos. cruise. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done, and that's what matters. And fun fact, due to this defeat for Japan, South Korea are the only team qualified to the 2026 World Cup from Asia undefeated. Shout out to South Korea. But let's be real, we all know Japan's A team is a whole level ahead of any other Asian country. So don't worry, Japan fans, y'all will be good. Well, I don't actually think any Japanese fan is actually worried about this result. They probably didn't even know the match was happening. But anyways, moving on to the next game, let's talk about Indonesia versus China in Jakarta. Now this game was important just because whoever won this game had a great chance of making the 4th round of qualifying. So best believe both Indonesia and China were trying their very hardest to win this one. Sorry for China though, they didn't create much, only getting 1 shot on target from 5, despite having a majority of the possession. Meanwhile, Indonesia were creating way more chances, having 13 shots and 3 on target. And thanks to that, the Indonesians were the ones that walked away with all 3 points. You see, Indonesia were dominating the first half of the chances, and eventually they would win a penalty from a foul in the box, in which Ole Romney, the new recruit from the Indonesian national team, would score from the spot in first half at a time to give Indonesia a 1-0 lead. Something they would hold on to the entire match, collecting all 3 points. And I want to give a shout out to Ole Romney, because ever since he started representing Indonesia, he's been going crazy. And especially in this game, he was the one getting the majority of the chances for Indonesia, so well done to him. And thanks to him and the rest of the Indonesian team, they got a huge win in their aspirations of the 4th round. But now let's move on to Bahrain taking on Saudi Arabia at home in Rifa. And listen, ever since Bahrain got that lucky win against Australia away from home, these guys have just not impressed me whatsoever. And in this game would prove why. At home in a must-win game to stay alive, they got beat by Saudi Arabia 2-0. Thanks to Al Juwair, who scored in the 16th minute, and Al Aboud, who scored in the 78th minute. And this loss is on the back of Bahrain having 17 shots with only 2 on target. Are you serious? Where's the Bahraini offense? But yeah, it was a bad result for Bahrain, and a huge 3 points for Saudi Arabia. But now it's time to talk about match day 10, where we're gonna start off with Japan taking on Indonesia and sweep that Japan. And man, I want to give Indonesia a lot of credit in general for the way they handled qualifying as a Pot 4 side. But bro, against Japan away from home, these guys got their booties clapped. They got their cheeks handed to them. They were moving like Bonnie Blue. Indonesia, what happened, bro? This was a Japan B team too, and peep this. Japan had 22 shots to Indonesia's 0, and they had 10 shots on target to Indonesia's 0, and also had 71% possession. Yes, of course, Indonesia is gonna bunker against Japan. That's only natural. But at least if I'm playing a hit on a counterattack, at least give me 1 shot. Patrick Kluivert's men did none of that. They just sat back for the sake of sitting back, and they got handed a massive L for this, with Daiji Kamada scoring first in the 15th minute, then Takefusa Kubo, who got the start in this game, scoring in the 19th minute. Daiji Kamada would then add another one and add time in the first half. Ryoyo Morishita was scoring in the 55th minute, Shuto Machino was scoring in the 58th minute, and Mao Hosoya were rounded up in the 80th minute for Japan's 6th goal of the night as they destroyed Indonesia 6-0. Wow, that is embarrassing. This is what I worry about when it comes to Indonesia. They're good enough to beat the worst sides in Asia or even the mid ones, but when it comes to facing elite countries, they fold massively. And in the World Cup, I mean, you're going to be facing some top opposition. So I hope Kluivert's men learn from this, because they cannot take an L this bad in the 4th round, or else they're not making it. But now let's move on to China versus Bahrain, held in Chongqing. Yeah, baby, Chongqing. Bro, I really want to visit that city, no troll. There was a running joke in one of my friend groups about going to Chongqing, and the joke eventually became serious. Like, I genuinely really want to visit. One day. But to the game now, China were definitely the better side. Bahrain might have had more possession, but China had the more shots and the more shots on target. And with that, of course, China were bound to collect all 3 points. Now, China were piling on the pressure for most of the game, and eventually in the 90th minute, they were awarded a penalty for a handball. And guess who stepped up for China to take this? The 18-year-old who's wearing the number 10 for China this window, Wang Yudong, the winger. He stepped up and converted the penalty to help the Chinese beat the Bahrainis 1-0. And I just want to highlight this guy Wang Yudong really quickly, because wow, man, wow. I'm going to be bullish and say this kid is going to be the next Chinese superstar in football. The way he was toying with Bahraini defenders in this game was amazing to watch. He's the superstar that China's been praying for. And at just 18 years old, yeah, I can see this kid playing in Europe. Hey, European scouts, watch this kid. He's the real deal. And you know what? I'm gonna keep on glazing China. Sorry, Trump, but the Chinese fans in all qualifying have been amazing, and they deserve respect for that. And that jersey is still so sexy. If anyone can tell me where to find long sleeve China jerseys delivered to the US, I really appreciate it. But enough of this China glaze. Let's go to the last match of 3rd round Asian qualifying with Saudi Arabia versus Australia. And look, this game was a dead rubber match. Let's be serious. But there still are some important things to note about this game. So although Saudi Arabia took the lead thanks to Al Aboud, who just tapped the ball in, Australia would end up winning this match thanks to a great finish from Metcalf in the 42nd minute and a great header from Mitchell Duke in the 48th minute to make it 2-1 for the Australians. But Saudi Arabia had the chance to get something out of this game, with Salem Al-Dawsari getting fouled in the box after having a pretty good overall match. However, in what seems like a pattern now, Al-Dawsari had his penalty saved, and I swear this is like his 3rd penalty miss in just the 3rd round of qualifying. Saudi Arabia, Hervé Renard, if you're watching, listen, I respect Al-Dawsari. He's a baller for Saudi Arabia, but this man cannot be on penalty duty for the 4th round of Asian World Cup qualifying. Find somebody else, because 3 penalty misses from I think 4 in just the 3rd round is a horrendous penalty penalty output. But enough about that. Let's take a look at how Group C looks like after the third round concluded. In first place, we still have Japan, who acquired the most points in the third round with 23 points. Then in second, we have the Socceroos, who qualified for their 6th straight World Cup, I believe, with 19 points. Then in third, we have Saudi Arabia with 13 points. In fourth, we have Indonesia, congrats to them, with 12 points. China barely missed out in 5th place with 9 points. And Bahrain finished in dead last with 6 points. But we're not done with the Asian region just yet, because let's go over which countries have qualified to the World Cup directly and which teams are in the 4th round now. So the countries who qualified directly to the World Cup are South Korea, Japan, Jordan, Iran, Australia, and Uzbekistan. Congratulations to them. And the teams who made the 4th round are Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who are in pot 1 and are hosting the games. Thank goodness for them, because if not, they might have not had a chance of making the World Cup, in my opinion. Then for pot 2, we have the UAE and Iraq, 2 really tough sides who deserve to be here. And then in pot 3, we have Indonesia, who deserve to be here, and Oman, who in my opinion, it should have been Palestine. Now, who do I think will go through to the World Cup? Let me know in the comments whether I should make a prediction video on the Asian World Cup qualifying round 4, after the groups are finalized, obviously. I know the people of those countries are scared right now, but don't worry, I'm beating the jinx boot to allegations, trust. But now with Asia's third round qualifying wrapped up, I think it's finally time we move on to the next region, which is the South American World Cup qualifiers. But before we talk about that, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both at Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. And also make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon, so if you want to, feel free to follow me on my socials and like the video and subscribe. Thank you. Back to CONMEBOL. Before this June 2025 international window took place, this is how the table looked like. In first place, we had the World Cup and back-to-back Copa America champions, Argentina, with 31 points. They already qualified to the World Cup before this window, by the way. Then in second, we had Ecuador with 23 points, and third right after that was Uruguay with 21 points. Brazil was right behind them too with also 21 points, just a lower goal difference. Same thing with Paraguay, who was in 5th place. Colombia was right behind them in 6th place with 20 points. Venezuela was in the Interconfederation playoff spot with 15 points. Bolivia was right behind them in 8th with 14 points. Peru was in 9th with 10 points, and Chile were in dead last with also 9 points, but just a lower goal difference. Anyways, now let's talk about match day 15, and let's just get Colombia versus Peru out of the way first. And man, this game was a stinky one. Honestly, just really disappointing from a Colombia standpoint. Like, look at these stats, man. Colombia had an overwhelming amount of possession with 71% and had 15 shots, but guess what? These guys had 0 shots on target. Even Peru managed to get 1 out of their 4 shots on target. That is crazy, and I guess a lot of the blame has to go to Jean Laurent. Listen, that Saudi bag must be nice for his bank account, but ever since that move, he hasn't looked as good as he once was. Let's be serious. His touches were awful. His shot taking ability looked like it vanished for a little while. Like, what's going on, man? Maybe he needs to get back to Europe and compete at the highest level again, because man, that was disappointing. Not just him though, but the entire Colombia team. Everything was disappointing. They're really continuing their downward spiral ever since that Copa America final loss to Argentina. Like, how can y'all not beat Peru at home? Peru are terrible. They're cheeks. Respectfully, of course. Sorry to any Peruvians watching this video. I'm just keeping it 100, you feel me? But yeah, disappointing from Colombia, really. Let's talk about Ecuador versus Brazil in Guayaquil. And both of these teams were desperate to try and qualify to the World Cup directly as soon as possible. And if either side won this game, they would have done just that. They went Brazil just hiring Carlo Ancelotti to become their coach. Someone said they were expecting a rise in the Brazil performances compared to late, but the performance against Ecuador wasn't too much to be excited about, since both teams ended up drawing 0-0. And I mean, I guess both sides would take a point. It is one step closer for both sides to make the World Cup. Ecuador were definitely the better team of the night, and they probably wish they got the win, but there isn't too much to complain about, really. So let's just swiftly move on to the next match I want to talk about, and let's go over to Paraguay versus Uruguay. And the Paraguayans, man, they're really gonna do it, huh? They're most likely gonna make their first World Cup since 2010, and they deserve it, because the performances they've been putting out as of late under manager Gustavo Alfaro have been elite. Shout out to Julio Enciso, because this guy might have not had the best of seasons getting loaned down to Ipswich Town from Brighton, but for the Paraguay national team, this guy's balling out and is continuing to show why he's the best player on this team, or at least in my opinion, he is. And in the game against Uruguay, Paraguay showed how much better they were, getting 12 shots to Uruguay's 5 of them on target to Uruguay's 1, and although they did lose out on possession, it didn't matter, because Uruguay did absolutely nothing with the ball, while Paraguay did when they had their chances. First in the 13th minute, thanks to Matías Galarza, who scored a header despite a rushing goalkeeper from an Enciso cross to give an early lead to his nation to Paraguay. Paraguay would continue to stack up the chances in both the first and the second half, and they would double their lead finally in the 81st minute after Enciso winning a penalty after stealing the ball from Araujo and getting fouled, to then converting the penalty coolly to make it a 2-0 win for Paraguay. Great stuff from Paraguay and great stuff from Enciso. Honestly, just a great win to top it off. And Uruguay, man, what happened to these guys? They've fallen off a cliff, just like Colombia. Does Bielsa deserve a sacking? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, on to the next match we go, and let's talk about Chile playing at home against the World Cup champions Argentina. And nah, man, talking about Chile right now is just simply sad. It's just sad. Around 10 years ago, these guys had the double over Argentina in Copa America finals, and 10 years later, they're a big mess, on the border of not qualifying to their 3rd straight World Cup. I mean, what did Chile expect? They're not developing any decent talents, and they're still relying on the likes of Alexis Sanchez, Arturo Vidal, etc. Like, bruh, after Argentina got the 3 points, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Argentina did manage to win 1-0 thanks to a goal from Julian Alvarez in the 16th minute. I forgot to mention that. I was just going straight into grilling Chile. My fault. But yeah, like I said, after Argentina won, Rodrigo de Paul legit told told Arturo Vidal to go back to streaming. Bro, that is a violation. Personally, I wouldn't have that. But yeah, not too much more needs to be said. Did I expect more goals from Argentina in this match? Yeah, but they did the job and got the 3 points when they've already qualified to the World Cup. So I can't really complain too much. And now onto the last game of matchday 15 in South America, we got Venezuela at home versus Bolivia. And this was the match that was circled on my calendar for this matchday, because both Venezuela and Bolivia are fighting for one spot in these qualifiers, the Interconfederation playoff spot. And this game felt like whoever won this match was going to that Interconfederation playoff round, which is why I was personally the most hyped for this match. But then 5 minutes into the game, one of the worst goals I've ever seen in my life happened from Qualifiers and also the goalkeeper, with him letting the ball slip under his feet and Venezuela go up 1-0 early. From here on, it was always going to be tough for Bolivia to come back, especially away from home. And sadly in the 30th minute for them, Rondon gets a little lucky after winning the ball in the air from the Bolivian defender, and he smashes the ball into the back of the net to double the lead for the Venezuelans. And although Bolivia were trying their hardest to get a goal back in the second half, it wasn't meant to be, and Venezuela would end up winning this very important game 2-0. Well done in Venezuela. They did what they needed to do and got the 3 points. Fair enough. But now it's time to move on to matchday 16. And let's just start this off with Peru versus Ecuador. I was a little shocked by this one, especially with Peru having the better stats on the day compared to Ecuador. A large part of that probably has to do with Alan Franco getting a red card in Ecuador, but still, you wouldn't really expect Peru to get stats like these against Ecuador. But it didn't matter because the game ended 0-0. Disappointing that Ecuador didn't win this one, but they're not going to care, because with a point, they just qualified to their second straight World Cup. So congratulations to the Ecuador national team and their fans. Well deserved. Ecuador truly has a golden generation coming up, man. Moisés Caicedo, Hincapié, Estupiñán, Gonzalo Plata, Kendry Baez, etc. Ecuador got some ballers coming through, so it'll be nice to see them at the World Cup. And Peru, congrats on getting a point, I guess. On to the next match, let's go over Bolivia versus Chile, which was played at El Alto, which means these guys were basically playing on the moon, bro. That's how high up they were. And of course, whenever Bolivia plays at home with the altitude advantage, they're more than likely gonna win, especially against Chile, because man, those guys suck. And Bolivia were definitely the better team in this match. They had the more shots and the more shots on target, and although they had to play most of the game with 10 men, thanks to a 19th minute red card from Lucas Chavez, even though Chile also later got a red card, Bolivia would still end up scoring 2 goals. One from Miguel Terceros in the 5th minute, and one from Enzo Montero in the 90th minute to win this crucial game 2-0, which keeps Bolivia's hopes at that Interconfederation spot alive. If Bolivia somehow dropped points, Venezuela probably would have secured that Interconfederation playoff spot, but with Bolivia winning, it's not guaranteed no more. And for Chile, what's guaranteed for them is they're the first Commonwealth nation to fail to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Wow, I am shocked. Nah, just kidding.
What? I don't believe it! Kidding.
It's just as I expected.
Chile are booty cheeks, man. Their downfall is terrible. I thought when Ricardo Gareca took over, he was going to help Chile turn around, but that was a task too tall for him, because Chile miserably failed, and he stepped away from the job after failing to qualify. Chile is in the mud. There are a couple of positives for them in the future, like they got some bright players in Dario Osorio from Michelin, and Lucas Cepeda, he's pretty good as well, but other than that, Chile's pretty cooked, man. Sorry, y'all. Now, I don't want to humiliate Chile too much, so let's quickly talk about the next game, which was Uruguay versus Venezuela in Montevideo. Now, this game was bound to be a stinky one. Uruguay are one of the worst teams based on recent form of combo right now. They haven't won a game since matchday 11, while Venezuela is pretty bad away from home, just like Bolivia. So for me, this game was just a battle of the mid, but believe it or not, one of these mid sides ended up winning this game, and it was a side that had the better stats. Uruguay, who had 12 shots at Venezuela's 10, 5 shots on target at Venezuela's 1, had more of the possession, and it was first thanks to Rodrigo Aguirre in the 43rd minute, who scored a header from a corner kick right before halftime to put the Uruguayans up 1-0. And then early on in the second half in the 47th minute, De Arrascaeta scores a screamer to double the lead for the Uruguayans. And although both teams will create some chances for themselves throughout the rest of the 90, nobody else scored, and the game would end in a 2-0 victory for Uruguay. This was a mandatory win for Uruguay just to get back into the winning feeling. While for Venezuela, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really expect them to win this game, no matter how bad Uruguay was. But enough about mid. Let's talk about Brazil versus Paraguay and Sao Paulo next. And I was very interested in this game, just because Paraguay are in form, but also the fact that this was going to be Carlo Ancelotti's first game as Brazil manager at home. So I was excited to see how this was going to turn out. And actually, a Brazil side that's been underperforming for a majority of qualifiers were definitely the better side. Looking at the stat sheet alone, these guys had 11 shots to Paraguay's 5, 4 on target compared to Paraguay's 1, and almost had 75% possession of the ball. That's insane, especially against a good Paraguay side. Not only that, for both the first and second half, Brazil were the ones creating a majority of the opportunities, and they were creating some really good ones too. It easily could have been 3-0 or 4-0 with some of the chances they got. But only one goal was scored in this game, and it was thanks to the man wearing the number 10 this time around with Neymar and Rodrigo out injured, Vinicius Jr., who scored a tap-in from Acuna cross to secure the 3 points for Brazil. And it's about time Vinicius comes through big for his country again. We all know Vinicius for Brazil isn't the same for Vinicius for Real Madrid, so it's nice to see him have another big game moment for his country. And with this win, I now have to congratulate Brazil, who have now qualified directly to another World Cup. So shout out to them. I really want to see Brazil do well in 2026. I need Neymar to win the World Cup, man. I'm one of the biggest Neymar glazers out there, admittedly. So to see him with the World Cup trophy, wow, that would be magical. But enough Neymar glaze. It's time to talk about the last match at Combo World Cup qualifying match day 16, where we had Argentina versus Colombia and Buenos Aires. Now off the bat, you would expect Argentina to easily win this game, especially at home. And also the fact that they're the back-to-back Copa America winners, along alongside being the winners of the recent World Cup. This game was Argentina's according to the bookies, but in what seemed like it took forever, Colombia actually turned up in a big game. No cap, they were probably the better side in Buenos Aires for the majority of the match. They had the more shots, they had the more shots on target, and sure, they didn't have more possession, but still, they looked good. Richo Rios, shout out to him. He was having one of his best games for Colombia that I've seen in a while, and shout out to my boy Lucho Luis Diaz. See, watching performances like these from Lucho makes me conflicted on whether we, as in Liverpool, should sell him this summer, because he randomly drops world-class performances like this, and sometimes he just performs awfully. You know, I think I know why that is. He loves to perform with his sun's out. Notice how in the beginning and the ending of seasons at Liverpool he balls out. That's because the sun's out, but during the rainy/cloudy days, he doesn't perform like that, so it makes sense. But anyways, what a goal by Luis Diaz in the 24th minute. Getting by those Argentinian defenders and then sliding the ball that coolly into the back of the net was tough from him. However, Colombia did fail to secure all 3 points despite a good performance from them. And also with the man advantage too, because Enzo Fernandez got sent off in the 7th minute. And that's because Thiago Almada, the ex-Atlanta United player who's been balling out for Argentina recently, scored in the 81st minute to equalize the game and make sure Argentina left this match with a point. Thiago Almada is going crazy for Argentina, man. He's a lock for the 2026 World Cup squad for sure. He's been winning points for Argentina single-handedly recently, I swear. But now with matchday 15 and 16 out of the way, let's take a gander on how the table is looking like with only 2 more games to go. In first place, we still got Argentina with 35 points. They're well ahead of everybody. Then in second, we got Ecuador with 25 points, who have now qualified directly to the World Cup. So Brazil in third place with also 25 points, just a lower goal difference. Then right behind these guys is Uruguay in fourth place, still, despite being underwhelming with 24 points. Paraguay's right after them with the same amount of points, just a lower goal difference. And Colombia is in sixth now with 22 points. They gotta lock in, man, I swear. I need to see those baddies in these seats. But anyways, in seventh place, which is the Interconfederation spot, we got Venezuela with 18 points. Right behind them in 8th place is Bolivia with 17 points. They're still alive for that spot. Venezuela better watch out. Peru is in 9th with 12 points. It's looking unlikely for them. And the only confirmed eliminated team in South America, Chile, is in dead last with 10 points. Only 2 wins and a negative 15 goal difference. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. But that's enough about CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying. Let's now move on to a region that only recently started their World Cup qualifying campaign. And that's Europe, aka the UEFA region. Now, talking about UEFA World Cup qualifying is slightly tricky, because not every group has been playing these World Cup qualifying games due to the UEFA Nations League still being underway in the June international window. And by the way, those games were peak, almost as peak as Goat Piece. So if you want a summary of what happened and just want to relive the knockout stages of the Nations League, check out this recent video I made about them if you haven't already. It's a banger. But anyways, to go over the UEFA World Cup qualifying groups that haven't started quickly, we got Group A first, which consists of Germany, Slovakia, Northern Ireland, and Luxembourg. Germany should easily qualify from that, but this group has not started like I said. Then in Group B, we have Switzerland, Sweden, Slovenia, Kosovo. This was all to play for at the top of the table, but this group also hasn't started these qualifiers. Then in Group C, we've got Denmark, Greece, Scotland, and Belarus. I'm intrigued to see how Greece performs. They've been doing pretty good lately, but yeah, this group has not started either. Then there's Group D, which has France, Ukraine, Iceland, and Azerbaijan. Yeah, France has this one in the bag. Over to Group B, we've got Spain, Turkey, Georgia, and Bulgaria. It's a pretty difficult group just off the names, but I think Spain's got this one. And then there's Group F, which has Portugal, Hungary, Republic of Ireland, and Armenia that also hasn't started their qualifying games. Now on to the first group that's actually started their qualifying games in UEFA. We've got UEFA Group G, where we have Poland, who are on top of the group before the June window with all 6 points. Finland were in second with 4 points. Lithuania was in third with 1 point, and Netherlands had 0 points, but that's because they were initially preoccupied with the Nations League, so they didn't play a game yet. And Malta was in last with 0 points and a negative 3 goal difference. So now with that out of the way, let's just dive into match day 3, where we first had Malta versus Lithuania. And this game was a stinker. It ended 0-0. How Lithuania didn't beat Malta despite being away from home is crazy to me. But regardless, moving past that, let's talk about Finland at home versus Netherlands next in Helsinki. And with the utmost respect for Finland, shout out to Timo Pukki the legend, they just had no chance, man. Let's be serious. It's the Dutch. They should be easy taking care of everybody in this group with ease. And they did. Beating Finland 2-0, they saw a goal from Memphis Depay in the 6th minute, and then Denzel Dumfries in the 23rd minute. They even dominated completely on the stat sheet too. So yeah, Finland stood no chance. And let's just get match day 4 out of the way too. Netherlands absolutely steamrolled Malta 8-0. Malta, yeah, I'm sorry y'all had to go through this. This was just unfair. Shout out to Van Dijk for scoring this absolute screamer in the 20th minute though. What a goal from my captain. And also I want to give a shout out to Memphis Depay, who with his 3 goals this window has now equaled the all-time Dutch scoring list for the Netherlands national team. Tied with Van Persie now with 50 goals. He's gonna break it soon, we all know it. But now I think it's time to go over to Finland versus Poland. And this was a game that I thought it could be 50-50, even with Finland playing at home. I mean, Poland got Robert Lewandowski. Of course they would be the favorites. And on the stat sheet too, they dominated, with Poland having 24 shots to Finland's 13, 9 shots on target at Finland's 4, and having more possession too. But guess what? Poland only scored 1 goal. That was like the Jaakko Kivior in the 69th minute. But before that goal, Finland scored 2. They saw a penalty from Joel Pohjanpalo in the 31st minute, and then Benjamin Kalman in the 64th minute. So unexpectedly to some, Finland got a huge 3 points on the board against the Polish, beating them 2-1. And this caused some drama on Poland's end, because Lewandowski, who did miss this window, came out and said that he won't play for Poland again as long as the Polish head coach, Probierz, was still the manager. And look how much power Lewandowski has, because like a day or 2 later, the Poland manager resigned. Damn, that's kind of aura, I can't lie. But anyways, with these games out of the way now, the table looks like this. Finland are now on top of the group with 7 points, but they did play the most games with 4. The Netherlands are in second with 6 points. They've won 2 out of 2 games so far. Poland are in third with also 6 points, just a lower goal difference and 1 more game played. Lithuania are in fourth with 2 points, and Malta were in last with 1 point and a negative 11 goal difference. Yeah, Lithuania and Malta in this qualifying group are just here for the vibes. Anyways, I now think it's time to move on to Group H of UEFA qualifying, where we initially had Bosnia and Herzegovina in first place with 6 points. Romania were right behind them with 3 points in second place. Cyprus were behind them in third with also 3 points, just a lower goal difference. Austria were in fourth with 0 points, but that was just because they didn't play a game yet. And the legendary and glorious San Marino were sadly in last place with 0 points. Just imagine for a second that San Marino made the World Cup. That would be legendary. But let's be real, that's not happening. Speaking about San Marino though, let's talk about the first game of Matchday 3, where they went away to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And Bosnia and Herzegovina are still unconvincing to me, because despite dominating San Marino, having 21 shots with 6 of them on target and also having 68% possession, Bosnia only managed to score 1 goal in the 66th minute thanks to the ever so reliable Edin Dzeko. The fact that Bosnia are still relying on this man is crazy. But listen, you gotta be San Marino. And they did so. So regardless of how unconvincing it was, they did their job. But improvement is definitely needed. And then let's move on to Austria versus Romania. Austria's first game of World Cup qualifying. And I mean, look, Romania are a decent side, but Austria being coached by Ralf Rangnick was not going to get beat by Romania, especially in Vienna. Let's be serious. And Austria were all over Romania. They were so dominant. I mean, 14 shots with 9 of them on target. That is insane accuracy. And shout out to Austria because thanks to 2 goals from Gregoric and later in the match Sabitzer, one of Austria's best players, they would win 2-1. A good start for the Austrians. Over to match day 4, Romania would easily take care of business against Cyprus, as we all expected. And of course, Austria were always going to beat San Marino, despite playing away from home, and they did so convincingly 4-0. Austria needs to be at the World Cup. They are a super entertaining side. And even if you're not keeping up with them lately, remember them at the Euros? They were hella entertaining. I need to see these guys back in an international competition for real. But now, looking at the table after 4 match days, despite how unconvincing Bosnia and Herzegovina are, they're in first place with 9 out of 9 points available. Austria were behind them with 6 points with just 2 games played. Romania are also in 6 points, but they played 2 more games. The Cyprus are in third with 3 points. Not bad, but they're not going to make the World Cup. Come on now. And sadly, the nation we all love, San Marino is in last place with 0 points and a negative 11 goal difference. World Cup 2054, when San Marino makes it, we will be there no matter what.
We'll be there. We will be there. We will be there.
Moving on to one of the more exciting UEFA qualifying groups, we got Group I, where initially we had Norway in first place with 6 points. Then in second, we had Estonia with 3 points. Then in third, we had Israel with also 3 points, just a lower goal difference. Then in fourth was Italy with 0 points, but that's just because they hadn't played a game yet. And as expected, Moldova was in last place with 0 points. Now let's just get Estonia versus Israel game out of the way first. I mean, Israel won 3-1, and it wasn't really a challenge for them. They had 16 shots and put 7 of them on target, so it was only natural that they were going to score goals, which they did. But the game I'm most excited to cover in the entire UEFA qualifying region is the match between Norway and Italy. Because wow, did this game send shockwaves throughout the entire football world. Now listen, we all know it's either going to be Norway or Italy who's most likely going to top this group and qualify to the World Cup. So the games between these two sides are going to be a dogfight and must wins for each team. And with Norway playing in Oslo first, they might be labeled as the favorites, but they were playing against Italy, man, the 4-time World Cup champions and the Euro champions in 2021. Does Norway really have the facilities to beat this Italian side? Well, I guess they do, because not only did they beat them out on the pitch and were definitely the better side with 8 shots at Italy's 6, 4 shots on target at Italy's 1, but they beat them on the most important metric in a football game, the scoreboard. And it all started for them in the 14th minute, with the wonder kid Antonio Nusa absolutely saucing Coppola, I believe, and then sent in an amazing through ball to Sorloth, who's had a good season with Atletico Madrid, and he scored to obtain an early 1-0 lead for the Norwegians. What a goal for Norway, man, and what a start to the match. But it only got better from here. The wonder kid I just mentioned, Nusa, absolutely mixed up Di Lorenzo in the 34th minute, causing 2 Italian players to trip over each other. Are you serious? And then slams the ball into the back of the net to make it 2-0 to Norway in the first half. Wow, Antonio Nusa, you are an upcoming superstar. And then in the 42nd minute, the Odegaard-Haaland connection finally delivered with the Arsenal captain delivering a superb ball to the Man City striker, who fished it calmly to make it 3-0 Norway, and they would collect all 3 points in this must-win game for both sides. Man, I am so desperate to see Norway play in an international tournament. They really deserve it. And finally, for the first time, it seems like they can pull it off. Thanks to Italy just being dog shit. Oh, by the way, Spalletti was also sacked after the match. That is tough. And shout out to Oslo. Met a bad bitch in Oslo. Spent $100,000 on bottles. Yeah. If you know that song, you're a real one. But yeah, super happy for Norway, man. They deserve it, to be honest, and their fans definitely deserve to see their country at the World Cup. But now on to match day 4. It wasn't anything too crazy. We first had Estonia versus Norway, in which Norway won 1-0 away from home, thanks to a goal from Holland in the 62nd minute. And look, it wasn't the best Norway performance, but all that matters is the 3 points, which they got. And then the next game, I guess you could say Italy bounced back against Moldova, with them beating the Moldovans 2-0. But it's Moldova. They should be beating a side as bad as them. But you want to know what's crazy? Italy might have had 28 shots, but they allowed Moldova to have 18 shots against them. The Italians allowed 18 shots at their goal against Moldova. Bro, Italy, y'all are a mess. I cannot wait for that Macro video essay on Italy. Maybe I should make my own video talking about Italy too. Not a deep video essay that Max is making, not like that. He's got it. But maybe I should dive into them a little bit. Let me know in the comments whether y'all would be interested in that. But now for the group standings after 4 match days. We got Norway on top of the group with 12 points and a plus 11 goal difference. These are looking real good for them. Then there's Israel in second with 6 points. Oh heck nah. Italy, y'all better start locking in. Then in third we got Italy with 3 points and a negative 1 goal difference. Oof, that's not good. And fourth we got Estonia with 3 points as well, just a lower goal difference. points, and then Moldova is still in last as expected with 0 points and a -8 goal difference. Moving on, I think it's about time we talk about UEFA Group J, where initially had North Macedonia on top of the group with 4 points, Wales were in second with also 4 points, just a lower goal difference, the Kazakhstan were in third with 3 points, Belgium were in fourth with 0 points, but that's just because they haven't played a game yet, and Liechtenstein were obviously in last place with 0 points. Starting off, let's just get the Wales versus Liechtenstein game out of the way in Cardiff. We all knew Wales was going to win this one with ease, which they did 3-0, so good stuff for them. But let's talk about the game that caught me by surprise in this group, North Macedonia versus Belgium. And oh boy, because look, despite being away from home, Belgium were dominant on the stat sheet. They had 17 shots from North Macedonia 7, had double the amount of shots on target compared to them, and they also had an overwhelming amount of possession with 68%. But despite this, Belgium were only able to score 1 goal, and it was thanks to the top talent left back Maxim de Kuiper, who scored in the 28th minute to gain that lead. But sadly for Belgium, North Macedonia actually a pretty good side recently, and Alioski made sure they were going to escape with something from this game at home and scored in the 86th minute to equalize the game 1-1 and make sure both teams shared a point. Disappointing from Belgium's standpoint, but North Macedonia are surprising me in a good way. Now on to match day 4. Let's go over Kazakhstan versus North Macedonia first. And playing away in Kazakhstan is hard. It's a super long flight to get there. They also proved at home they're a decent side in the Euro 2024 qualifiers, so it is tough to play there. But like I said, North Macedonia are surprising me in a good way, because they went to Kazakhstan and won 1-0 thanks to Trajkovski's goal in the 33rd minute. Well done North Macedonia, and what a window for them. But now let's talk about my favorite game in this group, Belgium versus Wales in Brussels. My oh my, this was a good one. This is because although Belgium had more shots at home, they were outshot on target with Wales getting 8, and even lost out on possession to them. But peep this, Wales had 12 shots with 8 on target. That is crazy good accuracy, man. Wales definitely deserved to get something out of this game. But the match did not start off the best for the Welsh, with the defender getting called for a harsh handball in the box in the 15th minute, in which Lukaku converted coolly to put the Belgians up 1-0. Then 4 minutes later, Yuri Tillemans would be wide open in the box and smash the ball into the roof of the net to make it 2-0 to the Belgians. And 9 minutes after that, Jeremy Doku got in on the action and glided by 2 Welsh defenders before taking a shot that went into the back of the net to make it 3-0 to Belgium before the 30th minute. But Wales were going to let the smashing slide that easily, because in added time, Wales won a penalty, and ex-Liverpool player Harry Wilson smashed the pen into the net to bring a goal back right before halftime. Proceeding on to the second half, Benjamin Thomas would make a wide open run into the box and score to bring the game back within 1. And the man who scored in the Europa League final, Brendan Johnson, would then head the ball into the back of the net in the 70th minute to help Wales go from 3-0 down to 3-3 away from home. This was an Istanbul moment for Wales. They just made an insane comeback. But sadly for the Welsh, the inevitable and new Napoli man Kevin De Bruyne would have something to say, and he would go unnoticed at the back post and score a well-hit volley in the 88th minute to restore the lead for the Belgians, which they would keep as they went on to win 4-3. Thank goodness that Belgium got this win, or else they might have been as bad of a position as Italy right now. But talking about Belgium, they do got some problems, man, especially defensively. They conceded 4 goals total in their first 2 games of qualify. They need to sort their shit out fast, or else they could risk a direct qualification spot to the World Cup. But now with the games out of the way, let's take a look at the table, where North Macedonia are currently on top with 8 points, shout out to them. Wales right behind them in second place with 7 points. Belgium are in third with 4 points, but they have played 2 games less. Kazakhstan are in fourth with 3 points, and Liechtenstein are of course in last place with 0 points. Moving on to Group K, we had England on top of the group with 6 points. Albania was in second with 3 points. Then in third we had Latvia with also 3 points, just a lower goal difference. Serbia were in fourth, but that's just because they haven't played a game yet, and Andorra were obviously in last with 0 points. Now I'm just gonna keep it 100. This group is boring and dead, so I'm just gonna glide by this. I'm sorry, but this group is just not as entertaining. I'm doing y'all a favor. The highly anticipated Albania versus Serbia match was set to be a dogfight, but it just ended in a 0-0 stalemate in Tirana. Then Andorra versus England in Barcelona. England only managed to score 1 singular goal, and that was thanks to Harry Kane in the 50th minute. It is important to note that Curtis Jones started the right back position for Tuchel instead of the new Real Madrid signing Trent Alexander-Arnold. Then over to match day 4, we had Serbia dunking on Andorra 3-0. Alexander Mitrovic scored a hat-trick, of course he did, and Latvia drew to Albania 1-1. So there's that. And yeah, England did not play on match day 4, but they did lose to Senegal 3-1 at home in a friendly. The first time they've lost on an African side. I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry English fans, I just felt like I had to. But yeah, here's how the group table looks like now. England are obviously on top of the group with 9 points from 3 games. Albania are in second with 5 points, but they have played 2 more games. Then third place Serbia, who has 4 points. Latvia are in fourth with 4 points, and Andorra are obviously in last with 0 points. Now moving on to the last group of UEFA World Cup qualifying, we got Group L, where we initially had the Czech Republic in first place with 6 points. Then in second we got Montenegro with also 6 points, just a lower goal difference. In third we actually had Croatia, but that's just because they hadn't played a game yet. Faroe Islands were in fourth with 0 points, and Gibraltar were in dead last with 0 points. Let's just quickly glance over this group too, because nothing surprising happened. On match day 3, Czech Republic took care of Montenegro 2-0 as expected, and Gibraltar got smoked at home by Croatia 7-0 as expected again. Then on match day 4, Faroe Islands beat Gibraltar 2-1. Faroe Islands are low-key on the rise, so I did expect them to win this game. And then what could be labeled as somewhat of a surprise is that the Czech Republic got absolutely destroyed by Croatia 5-1. I mean, it wasn't just a scoreline too. The stats display a complete destruction by the Croatians, with them having 18 shots, 11 on target to Czechia's 5, and having 62% possession. So yeah, Croatia handled business very well, and it's obvious that they're going to qualify to the World Cup from this group. So on to how the table looks like now. Czech Republic are still in first with 9 points, but Croatia are going to leapfrog them, let's be for real. Then Croatia's in second with 6 points, acquiring every possible point available to them. Montenegro is in third with also 6 points. Faroe Islands is in fourth with 3 points, and Gibraltar is in last as expected with 0 points with a negative 14 goal difference. But now, that's enough about UEFA World Cup qualifying. Let's now move on to a region that hasn't had World Cup qualifying in a year. It's CONCACAF World Cup qualifying time, baby. The region where my country, USA, plays in. Although we are completely dog water, but that's a completely different topic for a different day. However, before we talk about the CONCACAF region, I would like to remind y'all once again to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also, if you guys can, follow my Twitter and my Instagram, both on Nabuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall, just to get to know me more. And also, make sure to join the Discord server, link in the description, and also follow me on Twitch. Live streams may be coming soon. So yeah, follow me on my socials and join the Discord community. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Back to topic, talking about CONCACAF's World Cup qualifying. This is how it worked for the second round. There were 6 groups with 5 teams each, and the winners and the runners-up from each group will advance to the third round. So no team will qualify to the World Cup directly from the second round. Because in the third round, there will be 3 groups of 4 teams, where the 3 group winners will qualify for the World Cup, while the 2 best ranked runners-up will make it to the Interconfederation playoff. Alright, makes sense? I hope it does. Because we're diving straight away into CONCACAF World Cup qualifying Group A, where we had Honduras, Cuba, Antigua and Barbuda, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands. Now the last time the CONCACAF qualifiers happened, here's how the table looked like. We had Honduras obviously in first place with 6 points, Cuba were in second with 3 points, Cayman Islands were in third with also 3 points, just a lower goal difference, Antigua and Barbuda were in fourth with 1 point, and remember, this part is important, Bermuda were in dead last at this point in time with just 1 point. Now to the first game of the June international window regarding Group A, we had Bermuda taking on the Cayman Islands at home, and Bermuda smoked the Cayman Islands 5-0. They won very convincingly, so big up to them. Then onto the game between Antigua and Barbuda versus Cuba. Cuba would end up getting a huge 3 points on their quest to make the next round, thanks to Bravo, who scored an added time in the first half in their 1-0 win. The day after, we had the Cayman Islands taking on Honduras at home, and listen, Honduras no doubt should be top in this group, and honestly should be winning every game very convincingly. But against the Cayman Islands away from home, they only won 1-0 thanks to an own goal from Robinson in the 86th minute. Yeah man, Honduras are not that good. I'm sorry y'all. They low-key have not been the same since they conceded that last minute winner to Jordan Pifaxibachu in the very first CONCACAF Nations League semifinal to USA. But anyways, back to the World Cup qualifying. Honduras again was taking on Antigua and Barbuda, and only managed to beat them 2-0 at home. Honduras are a very good side at home. They beat Mexico twice at home in a row recently, so Antigua and Barbuda really stood no chance. But now let's talk about the most important game in Group A, Cuba versus Bermuda. This match right here was basically for a spot in the third round, because whoever wins this game was going through. And with Cuba playing at home, it seemed like they were going to be the ones taking this one. However, in the 6th minute of the game, Parfit would get on the end of a cross and score to make it 1-0 to Bermuda away from home, and did not start off well for the Cubans. After a few scraps, the game was kind of messy, and Cuba would get their way back into the game in the 50th minute, thanks to Aguirre, who leveled the tie. But unlucky for Cuba in the 74th minute, Lambi would make a brilliant unnoticed run between the Cuban back line and mix up a defender before scoring and bringing the lead back to Bermuda. And guess what? Bermuda would end up winning this must-win game 2-1. And wanna know what else this means? It means Bermuda finished in second place from last place with 7 points and made it to the third round, alongside Honduras, who topped their group with 12 points, while Cuba sadly got eliminated with 6 points, alongside the likes of Cayman Islands and Antigua and Barbuda, who also got eliminated. Unlucky lads, maybe 20-30 y'all got it. But now with that drama out of the way, let's talk about Group B, where we had Costa Rica on top of the group with 6 points initially, then Trinidad and Tobago were in second with 4 points, then St. Kitts and Nevis, fun fact, that's where Cole Palmer's roots are from, were in third place with 3 points, then Grenada were in fourth with 1 point. If your girl goes to nursing school in Grenada, consider yourself cooked, and then Bahamas were in last place with 0 points. Cool vacation spot though, I'm sure. And I mean, there isn't too much to talk about this group. Everything went as expected. Grenada smoked the Bahamas 6-0 initially, then Trinidad and Tobago would slap up St. Kitts and Nevis 6-2. Costa Rica would humiliate Bahamas this time, beating them 8-0 away from home. Grenada would win away against St. Kitts and Nevis 3-2. That's kind of impressive, so shout out to Grenada. And Costa Rica would beat Trinidad and Tobago in the capital San Jose 2-1, which allowed them to top the group comfortably with 12 points. This loss for Trinidad made them a little bit nervous as they finished second place with 7 points. But luckily their goal difference clutched up as Grenada finished in third with also 7 points. But like I said, the goal difference saved Trinidad. Then St. Kitts and Nevis finished in fourth with 3 points. And Bahamas were here for the vibes, finishing in last with a negative 21 goal difference. Ouch. Moving on to Group C now, we initially had Curacao in first place with 6 points. Then in second we had Haiti with also 6 points, just a lower goal difference. And third we had St. Lucia with 1 point. And fourth we had Aruba with also 1 point, just a lower goal difference. And we had Barbados in fifth with 0 points. Now I'm just going to keep it straight up. The group order pretty much stayed the same. Barbados ended up drawing Aruba at home 1-1. So hey, at least they put a point on the board. Shout out to Barbados. Then Curacao beat St. Lucia 4-0. Aruba got smoked in their home city by Haiti 5-0. But they did bounce back as they beat Barbados 2-1. And Curacao ended up smoking Haiti away from home, which is kind of crazy, 5-1. Good stuff from Curacao, honestly. That is a pretty impressive win. So now the final Group C standings look like this. Curacao advances to the next round with 12 points in first place. Haiti does also in second place with 9 points. St. Lucia finishes in third. Aruba finishes in fourth. And Barbados finishes in last. But hey, at least they got a point. We take what we can get. On to Group D, where we actually had Nicaragua on top of the group in shocking fashion with 6 points, only because they had a higher goal difference than Panama, the national team that owns the USA, who was in second. Guyana was in third with 3 points, and both Montserrat and Belize are irrelevant in this group. Let's be for real. Irrelevant. Now speaking about those two irrelevant sides, with all due respect, they played each other, and Montserrat won 1-0 thanks to a goal in the second minute. Following that, we had Nicaragua continuing their good form as they beat Guyana 1-0, and Panama will follow that up with a 2-0 win away from home against Belize. On to the last match day in this group, Guyana will beat Montserrat flat 3-0, and in the game to see who topped the group, Panama won convincingly at home against Nicaragua 3-0. So with that, Panama ended up claiming the top spot with 12 points, and Nicaragua took second with 9 points, but both teams made it to the third round. The Guyana missed out slightly by finishing in third, and yeah, the other two nations are just there in it. Now moving forward to Group E, we had Guatemala actually in first place with 6 points, that higher goal difference to Jamaica, who were in second with also 6 points. The Dominican Republic, who low-key were on the come up after making their first Gold Cup, were in third with 3 points, and Dominica and British Virgin Islands were just irrelevant. So in the June window, Dominica beat British Virgin Islands 3-0, but who cares? Guatemala would then smack out Dominican Republic 4-2 at home, a good result, and Jamaica would only somehow beat British Virgin Islands by one singular goal away from home. Well, that's low-key embarrassing. Then on to the last match day, we had Dominican Republic slapping up the other dominant country, Dominica 5-0, and Jamaica will redeem themselves after a poor performance earlier on and beat Guatemala at home 3-0. And this result means that Jamaica have topped the group with 12 points, Guatemala finished in second with 9 points, Dominican Republic finished in third with 6 points, Dominica finished in fourth with 3 points, and the British Virgin Islands were in last. The Virgin finished in last? What do you mean by that? Now on to the last group of CONCACAF's second round of qualifying, we got Group F, which has Suriname surprisingly on top of the group with 6 points, Puerto Rico were actually in second with 4 points, El Salvador were then down in third with also 4 points, just a lower goal difference, St. Vincent and the Grenadines were in fourth, and Anguilla were in fifth. So after the first game, we had St. Vincent and the Grenadines dunking on Anguilla 6-0. Then following that, I really wanted to see Puerto Rico carry this good form and make it to the World Cup, but they lost away to Suriname 1-0, unlucky lads, while El Salvador beat Anguilla away from home 3-0. Then although El Salvador drew to Suriname 1-1 after that, and Puerto Rico beat St. Vincent 2-1, it wasn't enough for Puerto Rico, who barely missed out in third place with 7 points. That is so tough, while Suriname and El Salvador make it to the third round. Unlucky for Puerto Rico, maybe in 2030. But now we finally got the second round out of the way. So let's preview the third round now of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying and check out the groups. Because in this round, the winners of the group will qualify to the World Cup. First in Group A, we've got Panama, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Suriname. And wow, this group is going to be entertaining. Panama are definitely the favorites to top it though, as they're on some really good form recently, but the other teams do have some upset potential, so I'm keeping an eye on this group for sure. Then in Group B, we got Jamaica, Curacao, Trinidad and Tobago, and Bermuda surprisingly. I think Jamaica's probably got this one in the bag, not gonna lie. And then in Group C, we got Costa Rica, Honduras, Haiti, and Nicaragua. I think Costa Rica is going to top this group with these, but I'm interested to see what happens. But anyways, that's everything that's happening in the June international window regarding World Cup 2026 qualifying. It's been pretty insane, right? I wasn't lying. But yeah, I hope this helped cover you guys on what's going on in World Cup qualifying at this moment. And this was one long video, so you guys better have gotten something out of this. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Also, follow my Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Enjoy the Discord community. All the links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn more about what happened in the recent 2025 Nations League and why it was peak entertainment, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.